having lived in the Kingdom of Cambodia for a long time, and sometimes being referred to as having been troublemakers. They're also often referred, as you know, they're also often referred to as high ministers of state in Cambodia and nobles and being important people. You mentioned their role in the military, but they had other roles too, official roles. So, but that this particular example could be a reference to maybe a rebellion. I think it's possible. The wording they use makes me think that it's talking about outside people, because it's the Lord. I think they use Jiao in Thai, the Jiao, which refers to a particular town or place or kingdom, but non-specifically, but it seems like it's somewhere else, or somewhere outside of the main area of Cambodia. But if there had been a rebellion in Cambodia, they would have treated it more or less similarly, I think. So I'll take a look at it again with that in mind. I'll read it.
So I have a question. I wonder how the political relation between the Khmer and the Thai at the time play out in this, the way that all these critical might have been written at the time. Because during this period, as you said, even though we don't know exactly, especially for the Khmer Chronicle, when it was written, or when maybe it was divided and rewritten, all this, but given this time frame after the Angkor period up to the French period, we call it as really, to me, a survival period for the Khmer. And the Khmer was in a huge influence of the Thai especially, because at that time it was really, under a lot of influence from the June as well. But I wonder if when you read the text, how this political or unequal political relation between the two political organization or political entity play out in this.
Okay, thank you. So for the history of the relationship between Siam, Ayutthaya, and Cambodia from, say, the 14th, 15th, early 16th century, in his dissertation, Michael Vickery, that's the subject of his dissertation. And in short, he finds that during historical periods when the relationship between the two kingdoms became more important, specifically the 18th century, he finds that episodes in the prior history, the old history, were kind of inserted into the Chronicles. Like suddenly we need to understand our relationship better. Let's look to the history, and then the historians would say, well, we don't really have a history, but we can kind of guess that this is probably what happened, and maybe we can take a story that we don't know what the date is and we can put it here, or we can take a story that happened later and maybe we got the dates wrong and change things around. So there's a lot of confusion about episodes in both Thai and Khmer Chronicles in the older history of the relationship between the two kingdoms. And in fact, a lot of the material was borrowed from the Thai Chronicles into the Khmer Chronicles, maybe borrowed back. But it was, for the parts that we can say are, for the later history, maybe from the 17th century on, we can see a transition in understanding the relationship between the two kingdoms as between the personal relationships of the two kings, usually with Ayutthaya or Bangkok as king as being more powerful, and the Khmer king is less powerful. But sometimes, if Bangkok or Ayutthaya was weak, then their relative power might be different. But it was personalized. It was like this king felt like this towards that king and did something personal to make him angry, or the king of Cambodia saw that Siam was looking weak, so he attacked, or vice versa. And then, as by the early 19th century, it starts to be referring to the Khmer Chronicles starting to refer to both Siam and Vietnam as ethnic kingdoms. One thing that I didn't talk very much today about is the ability to use ethnonyms as a basis for stereotypes. When you start to talk about all of the people of your enemy state as being in the same social category, then you can start to make associations between those people, or about those people. Associations which could be connected to people who don't know each other. For example, if you started talking about how the Thai people cannot be trusted in the Chronicles, right? Then you can start to say, well, we had stories about relationships with the Thai people 200 years ago, and 200 years ago they couldn't be trusted. And now they still can't be trusted. Before, in the older Chronicles, when everything was personal, you couldn't do that. Because everything was about this king and that king. So if that king dies, then you have to renegotiate the relationship. But if you're starting to talk about kingdoms as ethnic, then suddenly they become long-lasting. And something that happened 200 years ago, the Yuan did this 200 years ago, you can still blame them today. And so that's another transformation that I didn't talk about much today, but there's enough evidence for it in these early chronicles that you can see it.
Yes, we haven't spoken much about what we call in French racialisation. I mean, the word race in English and in French has definitely not the same meaning. What we call race in France is more about biological identity, you see. So in this the modern meaning of Tiet in Khmer today, there is something about the race, I mean, biological dimension of identity. So the particular moment, historical moment when Tiet appeared to be more about something of a biological race should be also, I think it has to do with stereotype also. To people having a particular physical appearance and having, all those, words about what was it? During the London program about you have all this interplay between the mind, the body, and so on. This is also part of entity. And maybe I remember when Penny Edwards said right in the book about the very moment where the Thai were the first, before the Khmer, I don't remember what was, corpus to say that, but when Tiet Mahaksa Sasna became a new definition of what a nation is. And this is also the, you mentioned two authors, you could also speak about Renan, the Renan's definition of what a nation is. Renan, Ernest Renan,
okay. You can tell me there.
18th century text, very famous one, about the 19th century text about what a nation is. So you need a people, a race, a territory, political power. So it's even more. But I'm sure you did that, of course, in your PhD, but more sophisticated, I don't know English word, sophisticated approach of what we call state ethnicity, which has different dimensions. But I'm sure you do that in your
I think it's ironic that as classification has become more sophisticated, it's also gotten more confusing.
Yes, sure.
And so I'm not sure if it's helped matters at all, if it's helped anyone actually understand what's going on, which I think may be part of the reason. If people don't understand why or how they're being classified, or if people understand it differently, then a lot of advantage can be taken by people who can manipulate identities. I tend to agree with people who think of these social categories, ethnic social categories, as, well, as I mentioned, constructed and flexible. But they can also be multiple. There can be, you can be, by which I mean it could include what we might think of ethnicity and race and nation as all similar kinds of social categories. So at one time you can be, you can be both American and Khmer, for example. American is defined slightly differently than Khmer, popularly and officially. But there's a lot of, in people's day-to-day interactions, some people have some flexibility in how they represent themselves. So to me, I see race as a different kind of ethnicity, one that uses markers that include an idea of biological inheritance. But I'm not an expert on 20th century history, and I don't know much about the process of nation-making here in Cambodia, or anywhere for that matter. But I'd like to read more about the author you suggested. What's his name?
Ernest Renan.
Can you spell the last name?
R-E-N-A-N. I'm sure the text has been translated into English. Ernest.
Ernest.
E-R-N-E-S-T. Very famous text about nation. The definition of what is nation is.
It probably happened slowly, and it probably happened after the period that I looked at. The 20th century, I don't know. But certainly, as I was saying, that you started to see written into Chronicles disparaging references to, attached to ethnic terms. I meant, in one of the examples, I don't know if you noticed, when somebody is referred to as via, the pronoun via, it, right? It's sort of a lowly term, and that was associated with the ethnic term yun in a political context. And so I start to see examples of connections between ethonyms and kind of insulting terminology, or just even calling yun the enemy yun all the time. If you repeat the enemy yun many, many times, then people start to say, oh, those people are our enemies. And so you can see the building blocks of it, I think, in some of these Chronicles texts, but I don't think it became as widespread until later.
Any more questions? Thank you very
I
much.
have a smaller one. I'm sorry, I'm very interested in your conference. I have another small one. So you didn't mention, but because this is a Thai manuscript, but the word siem in Khmer, which is far more common than Thai. So is there any difference? the manuscript are Thai, so maybe the word used for Thai is Thai. I don't know. But is there any equivalent of Siam? Because there is Yuan, but the traditional word for Thai people is Siam and not Thai. So of course the Thai word, the mention of Thai is more, for me, has a more national connotation than Siam. Maybe it refers to a national state.
I thank you for that, because I will look at it again, because I want to see that. That's a good question, and I want to see what they say.
Because in the I'm not a specialist at all, but in the Royal Chronicle, that small bits that I've been able to read, it's Siam is always mentioned. There is no mention of Thai. I mean, as late as the early 20th century.
My understanding right now is that it was a name for the kingdom rather than a name for the specific people. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't be used to kind of imply people as well. I will look at it again, because that's an interesting question.